Okay. Very good morning, sir, our guests, my colleagues, and our dear participants. I welcome you all to the third day of this refresher course on education, cinema, and society. And I take it my privilege to introduce to you our resource person today, Professor Siddharth Mishra. Professor Siddharth Mishra has completed his master's in English literature from Delhi University. Presently, he is adjunct professor chairperson media studies, Vivekanand Institute of Professional Studies, New Delhi. Prior to this assignment, he was consulting editor, Millennium Post, where he was part of the launch of the paper in 2012 in New Delhi and continued his association till 2017. Preceding that, he worked as associate editor with the Pioneer, and he also worked he wrote also a popular column for Reporters Notebook published every Wednesday. Presently he writes regular columns for the New Indian Express and news18.com. He started a think tank, Center for Reforms, Development and Justice, at New Delhi in 2011 to consolidate nation's intellectual capital. The center publishes a high value academic journal, The Discussant. Through the think tank, he has edited and published important volumes like Company to Crown, Essays on Colonialism, and Delhi Political from 1947 to 2013, and Oral History. He has contributed to many publication houses as editor as well as writer. He has also, to his credit, books published. To name some, I'll say book Jina, which was published, which talks about Jain temples in Bihar, and it was very well received. Another one was Women Moving Mountains, a eulogy of contemporary Indian women activists, which was published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing. Also, he published Processing News, which was published by National Book Trust of India, which is a collection of critical essays of the evaluation of journalism and mass communication. He has also contributed to, like he has also written some short stories and he's compiled some books also, which includes Camphor Avenue, Veer Kumars of Rajwada, Soaring Pines, Tales of Crucibles, and Cauldron Journey Chronicles. He has also been delivering lectures to many prestigious institutions, and he was the chairman of the governing body of Maharaja Agrasen College, University of Delhi, for 4 years, and thereafter of Shivaji College, and subsequently of Shahid Bhagat Singh College for 3 years each. He was also elected member of Delhi University Court and is presently member governing body Shamlal College, University of Delhi. He also participated in many workshops to enhance his knowledge, and he enjoys watching and discussing Indian cinema, dabbles in classical music, tries hand at playing golf, and mentors young mass media professionals like documentary filmmakers. So we are so happy and privileged to have you, sir, among us. And now I think our participants are eagerly waiting to listen from you. Today, you will be deliberating on women and Sham Benegal's Muslim trilogy. Over to you, sir. Thank you once again for coming.
Thank you, Priyanka ji, for the introduction. And good morning, everybody. Much grateful to my dear old friend, Dr. Jantosh Kumar Jha, and the organizers of the uh, program for having got me over for this session. At the outset, let's remind ourselves that we are living in the post COVID world. And that's how we are here today, meeting from our comforts of the places that we are in and interacting with each other and listening to each other. One of the things which caught my attention of this conference was the long list of speakers, where you have managed to get in people from a lot of places, from Delhi, from outside Delhi, recorded lectures and all that. So this is the beauty of the post-COVID world, where one does not have to really assemble at a place, and somebody has to come in and crossing the what you call the suffer not crossing the suffering the painful traffic of Delhi facing pollution and everything. And by the time one is there for lecture, one is so exhausted, both the person who is listening and the person who is delivering. So we are today in a time, how to positively look at it, that we are all in a very comfortable situation to listen to each other, to hear each other, and also to watch. Then COVID also gave us people the opportunity to empower ourselves. I am very sure many of us here who are here wouldn't have even known what is Zoom and what was, this was always there. Zoom was there for some time, and so was MS Team, and so was Google Meet. But none of us were using it or even bothered to find out what it is. But today we are all masters at it. We are all mastered the art of being interacting on these platforms. So this has been I look at it as a phenomenon of empowering ourselves. The situation, the lockdown has pushed us into a situation to technologically empower ourselves, to which we were largely resistant. Now, we did not empower ourselves by just, by hiring a guru or going to a conference. There must have been some training programs here and there, but largely we learned ourselves. We empowered ourselves. We became our own gurus. We became our own trainers. And that is how we learned. And lockdown, if you look at it that way, has been the period to, it has been a period of learning, as I mentioned. It has also been a time to pause, to recall, and retrofit. So when I and Gyantosh Jha were together in Delhi University hostels in 1980s and 1990, we both were great cinema buffs. And I do not know about him, but somewhere later in life, the print journalist in me overtook the cinema buff, because such was the routine that every day evening one had to remain in office till about 11 o'clock at night. So one did not have the energy or the patience to go and watch a cinema, unless, and in newspaper offices and media offices only the film critics go and watch the cinema, because nobody else has the time to watch cinema in the evening. So that is where somehow the cinema buff in me got lost. Kabhi weekends where the family would insist, let's go for a cinema hall, and one would have to really drag oneself out, because one day that weekend that you had, you wanted to leave it to yourself and not drive to a cinema hall or get to, anyway. Things have changed. Things have, multi screen cinema came, and then, and COVID gave us the platform of OTT. The OTT platform became so dominant in amongst us. It was all because of COVID. And we all started watching cinema once again at our leisure and with our, at our leisure and with our desires, what we wanted to watch. We were not being forced to the choice of the exhibitor, but we were driven by our own choice. This reawakened the film buff in me, and during the lockdown period of about 75-80 days that we were there, I ended up watching about 70 plus cinema, spread from 1940s to the latest ones, the OTT series and Patal Loks and everything, to starting from Mahal of the 19 Madhubala's and Ashok Kumar's Mahal to this. So this rekindled the cinema buff in me. This gave me the opportunity for the cinema buff in me to be back. And I was back to the times of my hostel in Delhi University, where what was a cinema scene if its cinema was not discussed? The discussion which followed watching a cinema over, on the way when we walked back from the cinema hall, we would do long walks from Palace Cinema on Roshanara Road or ISBT or Alpana in Mall Town. The closest was Amba. So during those walks at 12 o'clock at night, 12:30 at night, we would be discussing cinema. Director aisa tha, music ye tha, wo tha. So that discussion was, again, the need for that discussion, somewhere felt in me. And I started looking for people to start discussion. First, the discussion started on telephone. And then we decided to record some of these conversations. So one such conversation I'm going to share with you today. This is about what the title of the thing was about. We recorded about half a dozen conversations during this period on cinema. And one of this conversation was on Benegal's woman in the Muslim trilogy. No, there is a separate conversation you can have on women in Benegal cinema. Every Benegal cinema has, a diverse pantheon of woman characters, but we are limiting it to three cinemas, the Muslim, what's called the Muslim trilogy. Now, I would also want to tell you before I share this with you, conversation with you, that why I have chosen this particular conversation. This will also give you an insight into how an in-depth interview is conducted. You see, from the field of mass communication, if there are any teachers of mass communication here, interview अपने आप में एक subject होता है पढ़ाने के लिए. कई तरह के interviews, there are several kinds of interviews. But the best of the interviews are spontaneous interviews with a very knowledgeable person, with an equally knowledgeable, interviewer. So there, first, in such interviews, which are slightly longish, you get the best out of the knowledgeable interviewee, and also the interviewer also establishes one's own credentials that look, I can, and this is again not like most of the interviews that you see, the political interviews that you get to see on the television these days, where the questions are given in advance and an act is done and theatrical act is enacted, where questions are asked and the answers are given. No, not like that. You know that this person is knowledgeable, he has understanding of the subject, and then you have a discussion with the person, and the discussion brings out the best. Probably the interviewee ends up answering, on issues which he might not have even thought about. But when this question was asked to the person, he answers it. So this is going to be the video which we are going to watch for next about 40 minutes. And after that, there will be Q&A session in which which I would be open to all the questions. I want to make a little summation that this video may be at places be poor in sound value. After all, it's a homemade video, homemade. घर का बना हुआ वीडियो है, तो थोड़ी कुछ, और मेरे हाथ का बना हुआ है, तो थोड़ी बहुत कुछ वहाँ पर, and that was also a learning process for me, that why can't I make a conversation video for myself? So, so this video might have some flaws of sound at places where I will guide you through, especially my questions that might not register with you, which I'll guide you through. So for next 40 minutes, I will take you through this conversation, a very interesting conversation. This person, I'm told, whom I'm interviewing today, is a film historian. I rate him as one of India's best film historian. He's a faculty in Delhi University. And I'm told that he was invited for this conference also, because I checked with him, can I share this conversation? So he said that he was so happy about it. He said because since he's occupied somewhere, he could not come here. But I think so in way, you're getting what you call Diwali Dhamaka, ek ke saath ek free. That kind of thing you're going to have. So I'm going to share the screen now. I hope I'm allowed. Yes. Hello, welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Siddharth Mishra. I think something went wrong.
So your screen sharing has stopped. We can't see that video.
Okay, I will share it again.
Sir, please share again. Yes.
It's being seen now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Namaskar. Hello, Vadakkam. Welcome back to In Conversation with Siddharth Mishra. From politics to Bollywood. That is what the journey which our episode today is going to do. We are today going to talk about Indian film industry. some very interesting aspects of Indian film industry. And for conversation on this interesting issue, I have no better person than academically India's best known filmographer, film historian, Dr. Manoj Sharma. Dr. Sharma teaches history at Delhi University and has done a long time research on Hindi cinema and related world cinema also. Cinema is such a huge topic that it is not possible to capture it in one episode or two episodes or three episodes. So in this 1, 2, 3 episodes that we are going to do with Dr. Sharma, we shall be capturing journey of Shyam Benegal. And that too, we are not going to capture the complete journey of Shyam Benegal, but limited to a particular period when he makes a shift from being a hardcore art filmmaker to a somewhat of an entertainer. Shyam Benegal's first 4 films, Ankur, Charandas Chor, Nishant and Manthan, and Bhumika, made between 74 and 78, did not get commercial release. These films are funded by agencies which were outside the Bollywood cinema commercial structure. These films were funded by NFDC, Milk Cooperative of Anand, and such other agencies. So these agencies were not part of the business which Indian film industry created, business structure with the Indian film industry created. So they did not get proper releases. Shyam Benegal, somewhere, despite getting the critical acclaim for these films and the national awards and appreciation at film festivals abroad, had the desire that these films should be seen by the masses of this country. There was a problem. The problem was that at that point of time, in this country, we just had the single screen cinemas for showing films. We did not have the platform of television. We did not have the the current internet streaming channels. We did not have the CDs and the videos. We did not have the multi-screen cinemas either. So it was all limited to single-screen cinemas, and the single-screen cinemas were limited in number, and it was not possible to accommodate Benegal's and such other films, Kumar Sahani's film, Manipal's films, which were outside the business structure of Bollywood. So therefore, these films suffered. Benegal got his first commercial backing. Commercial as in when he came to become part of the Bollywood film structure. The business structure was when Shashi Kapoor owned Filmwala decided to back his project called Junoon. This was an interracial story about a Pathan and an English girl in the backdrop of 1857 Museum. You must remember that Filmwala was not only about Shashi Kapoor. Filmwala was also about Jennifer Kendall, his wife, who also acted in this movie. And Jennifer was a very celebrated theatre artist. Jennifer, with her acting skills, brought a lot of heft to this role. And from there on, Shyam Benegal's journey started. Junoon was followed by Kalyug. Kalyug was also a commercial venture, and it was a multi-star. It had Rekha, it had Raj Babbar, it had Anant Nag, it had Shashi Kapoor, and several other people. However, these two films were not that great commercial successes. But the commercial recognition started coming, and they came in the form of Filmfare Awards, which both the films got. In the meanwhile, the platform of television had started to come up, and Benegal saw a future for himself there. And therefore, in 1986, he did a multi-episode serial called Yatra for the Indian Railways, and then Bharat Ek Khoj also. Now, both these television serials, for the first time, gave Benegal a huge platform and access to the masses. And he was able to secure his film production out, the Sayadari films. But that did not mean that he had lost his tryst with the 35 celluloid. He made Mandi in 1982 and Trikal in 85. But by 1990, he was definitely moving away from being just an art filmmaker or a television filmmaker to that of being a what you call a commercial filmmaker. And thus in 1990s saw totally films made by Shyam Benegal, which were a totally different genre. It had songs, it had romance, it had stories. And And there are so many films he made in the 1990s, starting off with Mammo, Sardari Begum, Zubaida, Suraj Ka Satma Ghoda, and uh, and of course the other movies like Mahatma and the biographical films. Mammo, Sardari Begum, and Zubaida. These three films are called Benegal's Muslim trilogy. Mammo was made in 1994, Sardari Begum in 1996, and Zubaida in 2001. Some filmmakers say, or film critics say, that Zubaida was actually first real commercial venture of Benegal because it had music by A.R. Rahman and Karishma Kapoor in the lead roles. Some dispute it because in 1982 you had Rekha, the top-notch uh, actor of that time, and Raj Babbar and Shashi Kapoor in Kaliyug in 1982. Uh, and I must tell you again, the musical success of Zubaida was not as high as Sardari Begum in 1996, which had music by the traditional music director of the favorite of Shyam Benegal, Vanraj Bhai. Manoj, today we are going to discuss the Muslim trilogy, these three films. We'll limit our discussion to these three films. And my question to you is that 1990 is the period when there is a communal tension also in this country. The Babri Masjid movement, the Babri Masjid Ram Janambhoomi movement, and the consequent tensions and riots, other things in the city. So, did at any point of time Benegal had this communal tension at the back of his mind why he was making this film?
Sir, as far as I think with regard to the Muslim trilogy, I personally feel that it was not a Muslim trilogy because of the characters, because they were Muslim characters, and the issues were also connected to the Muslims. But I think that the larger issues they concerned with, they were largely universal in nature. And if we try to see films individually as well as collectively, then we will be able to realize this issue that if we try to see Mammo, then the issue of Mammo is with regard to the that what kind of identity she had, because she had migrated to Pakistan with her husband and she became a Pakistani citizen. So when she comes back to India, then she's not an Indian citizen and she needs a visa. And before 1947, this kind of a reality was not there. And Mambo was feeling it, and it was feeling it very hard that how to digest this kind of a situation that in a country or in a place where she grew up, and now she cannot live at that place. And she wanted to be with her sister and nephew. And she felt that her aspirations, her style of living was comparatively more suited to the Indian conditions rather than at the place where she went with her husband. So that was one aspect. And when we try to see it in the larger framework of the issue of citizenship, that how we say generally that how nations they are being created, and the issue of nationality and citizenship, and they are linked to the issue of identity, and how many people, those who go from one place to another, how they become migrants, that how Mammo was feeling in a way rootless when she went to Pakistan, how she got displaced from her own place. So these kind of issues in the larger context within the framework of Pakistan, that how Pakistan was created in 1947, that how this kind of a partition kind of a situation which emerged, and thereafter the riots between different communities, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. And because of those riots, we do not have the exact estimates, but we say that nearly 10 million women, they got displaced. They many women, those who were Muslims, they were they stayed in India. They married a lot of Hindu men. On the other hand, so many Hindu women, they married Muslim men. So this kind of things we see some of the films like Pinjar, Khamosh Pani. So these kind of ideas, they were comparatively more universal in nature. Apart from that, when we try to see Sardari Begum, where we see that a woman is ready to come out of that kind of a shell, where the shell of traditions and the social ideas, value systems. So all these kind of things, Sardari Begum is not ready to accept, and she says that also when she marries uh, Rajat Kapoor, and thereafter when Rajat Kapoor is thrown by her out of the house, then Mr. Das, played by Salim Ghosh, and he says that I want to marry you. So she says that it will not be good because I cannot be a Pativrata Nari. So coming out of that shell, recognizing this kind of a thing, that I do not want to live this kind of a life, which was comparatively very new in terms of treatment, not only in the context of the Muslim women, but any women, because the kind of society in which we live, which is more patriarchal in nature. So there are certain norms which is understood that women, they will follow them. There are certain kind of work which they have to do, certain kind of norms of the society, value systems of the society which they have to follow. They have to conform to them. Similar like the social religious reform movements, when we go back, where women, they were given a lot of liberty by the family members, but at the same time, women, they knew that they have to conform to the norms of their particular family and society. So in the similar way, Sardari Begum is being expected by her family members, including the brother, where she cannot have any kind of relations. Brother feels, though he is being supported by Sardari Begum at times financially and in other way as well. But even he feels that he should not keep any kind of relation with this kind of a woman who is not ready to accept the social traditions which are there of the family and in the larger framework society. And even his daughter does not know that she has an aunt with the name of Sardari Begum, who is very popular in terms of singing Thumri, etc. Similarly, if we see the third film, Zubeda. So Zubeda, in that also, Zubeda does not want to live a very traditional kind of life. She wants to explore the world. She wants to work in the films. And because of that, she is not liked by her father, who refuses that she cannot work in the films. And she is being married off to one of his friends. And when she is being married off, the person to whom she was married, he also goes to Pakistan, and her father, he refuses that she will not go to Pakistan and she will remain in India. So at certain points, Zubeda, she feels that there is a problem in terms of her identity, what kind of identity she has. And when she is being taken out and she marries another person, she becomes in a way the second wife of a Maharaja. And how in Maharaja's Maharaja's palace, she feels that she is just some sort of an object, because Maharaja at one point of time tells her that you have to look good, and that is your job. You don't have to interfere in even in the politics. So such kind of portrayals, not only of the women, especially Muslim women, where the issues of Muslim personal law, that how women in the Muslim society, they have to live within the framework of the Muslim personal law, and those kind of issues, when we compare with the Indian or the Hindu kind of a society, where the women in the Hindu society also, they have to conform to all sorts of restrictions which are placed on them. And this is how we see in terms of the kind of dichotomies with regard to women, that how women, they are being seen as Devi, Durga, Parvati, Lakshmi, Annapurna. They are being worshipped. On Navratri, we call young girls and we feed them, we in a way touch their feet. And on the other hand, how young children, especially girls, they are being raped in the Indian society. the problem of the domestic violence of the girls, those who get married, the issue of dowry which is there in the society. So all these kind of problems, when we try to see that these kind of dichotomies do exist. So I will not see these problems of women because the characters were women, but the problems were comparatively more universal in nature, which you will find in other societies as well.
Yeah, Manoj, you are correct that the Indian society at that point of time had issues across the communities, across the what you call regions, and that one of the best known novelists of Amrit Lal Nagar did a magnum opus at that point of time, which was titled Nacho Bahu Gopal. It was about
Yes,
a
sir.
young girl who to consummate her marriage with a man much older to her, and she is married off to that man for money, and then she runs away with a low caste sweeper, and then even the Dalit society does not accept them, and then he becomes bandit, and then she comes back, the bandit dies, and then she raises her son. So you see the the struggle of rebellious Indian woman. And in all these three films, look at it, if you actually that they are in the Muslim context. But with the see that all the three women in this context are women who are rebellious in their different time frames, who are rebellious in different time frames. Mammo is sometime in her character is sometime of the 70s or late 60s or early 70s. Sarari Begum is placed somewhat in 50s or 60s, or around that period, or maybe it's like 60s or 60s. And Zubeda is again placed in the 50s. So you see, and also they are from different backgrounds. You see, just not the, and this also they try to portray that religion particularly does not have a typical social framework. Because if you see Zubeda, she is from a Muslim family. Her lifestyle, her living style, her interaction, her peer circle is very, very different from Sardari Begum, who is from a provincial town of Uttar Pradesh. Her lifestyle is different. And whereas in case of Mammo, she is from a business family of Panipat. Panipat is an important industrial sector and affected, and since it was part of
The sound.
Punjab at that point of time, so affected directly by partition. And the family migrates to Bombay, and in Bombay, and in a world which is different from the film world of Bombay, this family is coming up. So all these three Muslim women are living under three different social situations and conditions. To me, the rebellion of Sardari Begum. To me, the rebellion of Sardari Begum played so very important as a strongest character because she is from a Mufassil town, and she wants to be she career in music. And a career in music at that point of time, the whole concept of women singing music was not on being the ones who are singing on the what the British called the Notch girls and the Gujrewalis and Kothewalis. To somebody from a middle class family, her father is a lawyer or something of that kind, and somebody from that kind of a family, and she wants to go and pursue a career in music. You know, she I find to be the more rebellious under the given situations than the other. I don't know if you agree with this or you don't agree with this.
So, taking cue from what you have said, that the idea of rebel woman. So, generally, what has been written in the context of women is that either there is a Prativita Nari who is ready to accept that her husband is the sole universe around him, then the family in-laws, they have to be taken care of. She should not in a way anyway object to what others want in the family. She is the one who has to take care of the entire family. So she is the heroine that way in the general films. And on the other hand, you have a vamp who has her own ideas. So women, they are portrayed that way. Either they are the heroine, one who is conforming to everything which is there in the society. And the other hand, there is a vamp who does not want to conform. But the reality lies between both of them, because these are two extremities that way. So when we try to see men and men, they also have shades of grey. So in the similar manner, women, they should be also portrayed. And I think the attempt by Shyam Benegal in all these three films is to show that women, they have their own emotions, they have their own identity, they have their own sense of how they want to lead their lives. Because generally we see that the women's wishes, they are not taken into consideration, that what they want to do, because either they have to listen to their younger brothers or maybe elder brothers when they are unmarried, to their parents, their father especially, and when they marry, then they have to listen to their husbands or the in-laws. So when we try to position women in that way, that they are rebelling, so or they want to pursue what they want to follow, rather, I would like to put it this way, then this kind of a thing is there because the society is also changing. Because when you see that in 1950s, where the background of Zubaida is there, or Mammo, which is there of 1970s and 80s, so the society has also progressed in these 20-30 years. And even the women's movements, if you see the emancipation of women in the social religious reform movements, and thereafter the establishment of the All India Women's Conference in 1927, and how a number of women's organizations, they are also wishing that women from different platforms, women from different social strata, they come together on one platform, because they are fighting for the women's rights. And that is how we also see that various issues with regard to women, they are always at the center stage. And politically also, because legislation itself is very, very important. When women, they were given they were part of the universal adult suffrage, when they were being given rights that they can decide the government.
This particular context, talking of these three characters, what I was trying to express was that in case of Mammo, she opted for Pakistan for love. She opted for Pakistan, and after her love is dead and she is thrown out, she for survival she comes to this country. In case of Zubaida, also something similar. She is looking for. She's a young, again having divorced. She has a lovely marriage, but she has been divorced for reasons of partition. And then she's again seeking love in like life. Here in case of South Africa, she, this woman I mentioned, Mammo and Zubaida, they are not trying to actually really look forward to a career. They're looking forward to a life of comfort, for which they are living. Whereas in the case of Salari Begum, she is actually rebelling for a career. She wants to have a career in the area of music. So that is the difference that I saw these characters, and that was the
So
point.
from the professional point of view, if you see Zubaida also wants to be an actress, and she acts in one of the films where her son is locating that reel where she had danced in one of the films, and she was very keen to become a film actress, though it was not allowed, because getting into films was not considered to be a good profession in those times. I remember that how initially when cinema came into existence, how the Nautch girls, even in the first film Raja Harishchandra, Dada Sahab Phalke was not able to find a woman, and Salunke, a man, he played the role of the wife of Raja Harishchandra, because none of the women, they were ready to work in the films, because the kind of low profession it was considered. So women were not forthcoming. Even the Nautch girls and the courtesans, they were not ready to work in the films. And when they come into cinema, initial part, we say, I remember seeing some of the posters of 1920s, 30s, where film directors, they are writing that they are BA, they are MA, to show that they are educated people, because educated people were not coming into films. But now the situation has completely reversed. Everyone is ready to work in cinema, and many people are not even getting those kind of opportunities. So in that context,
Yeah,
when you see that how Zubaida, she also wanted to have some kind of a career, when she was denied that kind of a career, then only she went, because she had that kind of a hardship where her husband left, so she was very depressed. So she did not have much option in terms of career because she was not being allowed. And the background is also late 1940s and 50s. So that has to be kept in mind. In the case of Mammo, I agree with you completely that it was not related to the issue of career. But in the case of Mammo, the issue was the issue of identity. And if you see this common thread, it is there in every film. And Shyam Benegal is using this kind of a device where this kind of an exploration is going on. Someone has become some sort of a journalist.
Yeah. You're talking about devices, One of the devices
Yes.
that Shah Manigal uses not only in these three films, he uses in several other films also, is the device of Sutradhar,
Yes.
the storyteller, who is not exactly Sutradhar in the pure terms, but he's part of the act, part of the cast, and he's somehow telling the story. As in case of Mukho, you have the grandson who's writing a story, and he asked his grandmother that what happened to Momo. She go, and then she shares some document with her. In case of Sardari Begum, again, this Sardari Begum's niece who does not know that she has an aunt and she is somewhere, and she decides to. Uh, she is sent on an assignment of a Muslim woman, Muslim singer having a bride, and she discovers that actually she is her aunt. She sees her father. Well, she again decides that she opts out of a trip to Cannes or somewhere for covering a film festival, and she decides to discover Sadari Begum's story. In the third part, again, Zubeda's son, who is a film journalist, and he was about exploring about Zubeda and finally lands up at the Maharani's courtyard and who shares with him. And as you mentioned that a film which is missing from film archive, the first reel of the film which is missing from film archive, Zubeda is finally given to her by the older Maharani that look, was your mother's. So, what I wanted to ask you was that when Shyam Benegal uses this device of Sutradhar, why does he do that? And he does it so often. He does it in Trikal also. Somebody is telling story. That's what with your story. Uh, always.
So in terms of storytelling, I think when there is some kind of inquisitiveness, that some journalistic thirst is there, some person who is part of the film, and he or she is also involved in terms of investigation that what has happened to that person. Because Shyam Benegal not only is using the issue or Sutradhar in terms of telling the story, but at the same time we see that his stories are cutting back and forth. The stories are not linear in that way that the story is progressing and then it ends. Rather, different kinds of episodes, they are being talked about, they are being shown, and then the story is linked in, because when you see one scene and many a times that scene is also repeated, then you are able to relate, okay, this thing happened at that point of time and how it is connected. So parts, they also get connected, and many a times because you see films but you don't even exactly remember that whether this thing happened earlier in the film or this thing happened earlier. So this kind of a device, which I also have seen recently used by one of the very promising and very popular filmmakers, is Rajkumar Hirani. And I think in in each of his films are not linear that way. They are very episodic in nature, and different episodes, they connect the story in this way. So it in a way engages the audience to a larger extent, and audience is in a way not able to predict that this thing is going to happen. So I personally think that this kind of a device is being used so as to create some kind of an interest of the audience. So this is what I believe in this context.
Other thing, which he does so effectively in all of his movies is that, you always, there's a protagonist, and to the protagonist, he presents a complementary character. So if you see, we have Fateh Jalal as Mammo, Kiran Kher as Sardari Begum, and we have Karishma Kapoor as Zubeda. But in all the complementary character is played by a very veteran actress, Surekha Sikri. She is was elder sister in Mammo. She is Kiran Kher's music guru in Sardari Begum, and then she is what you call Zubeda's mother in the third film.
Zubeda.
All the three films, these characters, they are not weak women characters. I must tell you, she is not portraying weak women. Here in this case, she has stood up to the world and she's looking after her grandchild in the first film, Mamo, who has been disowned. In case of second film, Adani Begum, she plays a veteran singer who has a psychic enemy. And in the third film, she plays the mother, questioning her daughter. Finally, gives in and allows her daughter to go. So what we had discussing was about rebellious women. And there we also have women in the society who are conforming women, conformist women, conformist. So how do you define this? The whole act of creating characters. One is rebellious and one who is social norms abiding. What is the idea behind two characters? And very powerfully character.
So what I personally feel is that the characters which are more conforming are from a generation which is earlier. If you see the case of Mammo, there is an elder sister, so who belongs to an earlier generation. Similar is the case in Zubeda, that she is a mother, and in the case of Sardari Begum, she is a guru. And all these three characters are comparatively of an earlier generation. And on the other hand, the younger characters, they are more rebellious. Rather, they want to pursue their own emotions, their own personal passions. So that is one part. Another part is that when you try to show these kind of characters in some kind of a juxtaposition, that how you pit one character against the another, then the rebelliousness of the other person is more pronounced. This is what I feel. Because the society is and was largely conformist in nature. As citizens of the country, as citizens of a society or a locality, you have to conform to certain norms of the society. And when someone goes and someone tries to break those norms, then the problems they emerge. And we also see that all these three characters at different points of time, they do not generally agree to what the other character or the younger character is doing in terms of breaking the norms. At different point of time, they try to tell them that, I remember in Zubeda, mother says that if you want to marry the Maharaja, you should marry. But after some time, he will lose interest in you because she is more worldly, she is more wise. She realizes that you will just become a second queen, and there might be many more queens in the harem of Maharaja. So you will be just one of them. After he will lose interest. Similarly, when Mammo says that I want to extend my visa by paying some kind of a bribe to the officer, then the elder sister is not conforming to what she was doing in terms of extending her visa. Even when she says that she will produce some kind of a death certificate, even then the elder sister wanted that some kind of conformity in terms of either law or in terms of society that should be maintained. Even when you see, there is a scene in Tonga when younger Sardari, played by Smriti Mishra, and she says she says to Surekha Sikri that this ring has been given to me by Amrish Puri, and she says that you be very careful that the person who has given you ring, the person is more concerned in women rather than in the music. So all three, in a way, are mature characters.
Conforming women, So although the first two films had two characters, one was rebellious, one was conforming. The third film, Zubeda, had a third character in Rekha, the Patrani, the Maharani of
Yes, sir.
whichever state that is, and she tries to extend some kind of it, and she's very well educated, very well groomed, and but again conforming to the norms of the society. So, where was the Benegal created third character? In the first two films, women characters complementing each other. In case of Zubeda, he creates a third character, and she and the polished character, very polished character, and and a strong character. So the whole, that my what I really want to understand that why the third character in Zubaida, maybe demand of the story.
Because what I have read or what I have seen with regard to Zubaida, that it is inspired by a real story, and the writer of the film, it is his autobiography that way, that he is the son of Zubaida, and Zubaida was a yesteryear actress, and the writer of the film, in a way, is trying to project not only the kind of society which was there, but the kind of experience which he had with regard to her mother. And when Zubaida goes to that particular princely state, so it is some sort of a real life story, and then has been adapted for the screen. So some of the elements, like the case of Rekha, so Maharaja Manoj Vajpayee already had a woman, or already had a wife, and this wife was from a very respectable family who knew the customs and traditions of Rajputana, to where she belonged. So she is conformist, she is educated, but at the same time, she knows that how to behave, because at different points of time, she tells Zubaida also that you can talk to me, you can call me Mandy when we are alone, but you can't call me Mandy when we are with others. She becomes angry when Zubaida starts dancing on the Gangor festival. She says that there are certain customs of the palace which you have to follow. So she is conformist, but at the same time, she is comparatively more mature.
And towards the end, for keeping in mind the traditions and the customs and the so-called izzat of the Rajgharana, she allows Zubaida to take the flight and steps back. She had campaigned with Maharaj,
Yes.
and then tragic accident. Having talked about
Because there are so many people those who are standing there.
and having talked about women characters, there are uh, all the three films has Rajat Kapoor playing different roles, and in the first and the third, he is playing the storyteller, a film journalist or a film historian, and in the first one, a writer otherwise, and who is examining on this. So he is the Sutradhar in these two films. In Sardari Begum, his character is very typical. You have a typical Maharaja, Raja, about whom you mentioned this Orissa. He cautions her that ring has been given not just for music but for her youth also. And here is one person who takes Sardari out from the what you call from the pedals of the Raja, and brings her to Delhi and gives her the exposition on the platform, which she got anyway. Hmm. But somehow his character is, he is not really able to come clean on financial dealings. So that kind of sense of insecurity he always has with the Sardari Begum. That that she will at some point of back of the mind that she had anything with that, and she's a woman of that kind of temper. And actually that happens also, and which she realizes also, which Sardari realizes also, because she tells her third lover, Chikapati owner, that that she's a woman who whom he can love, but he should not marry because she's one of the biggest weaknesses of the character of Sardari Begum is she, despite being a rebel of her time, despite having her own way, she does not allow her daughter to have her own way, and that is where her niece and the daughter, when they share their story, and she never allowed it. So what was Sardari's that sense of insecurity,
So what I personally feel is that in all the, especially Sardari Begum and Zubaida, mother-daughter relations are shown in a way which are very, very important. Because if you see the case of Sardari, as you talked about, that the Rajeshwari who played the part of the daughter, she's not being allowed to, in a way, study or to follow her own passion which she wants to do. Rather, she is not even asked that what she wants to do. Sardari decides for her that what she has to do. And when the journalist or her cousin sister comes and she says that how do you see her, whether she, even Sardari asks her when she dies that whether I was a good mother. So she says that you were a good mother, but at the same time, when they were discussing this thing, that when Rajeshwari says that mother, you did not allow me to follow my own passion, she calls her khudgarz and Zahir in the film. She says that you were khudgarz because you were always thinking about yourself. You were always, you were the central character. We were at the periphery. So she never comes in a way center to the Sardari's ideas. She was always peripheral in nature. And on the other hand, Sardari is considered to be some sort of a selfish woman by her when she says khudgarz. But at the same time, from the mother's point of view, Sardari was always very protective of her. And later she realizes also, because in any family there are always generational shifts, and younger always feel that the other generation or the elder generation is not able to understand them fully. So these kind of changes are there.
Manoj, in these three films, we also see, music plays an important role in, especially in the second and the third film. And in the third film, we have A.R. Rahman as the music director. This is the
Yes.
second Satari Begum, which actually is very successful music. Songs become very successful. And Vanraj Bhatia, the long-time music director of Shyam Benegal, was due from this film, although he was not taken in the next film. Which probably the production house decided to go for A.R. Rahman. Manoj, we have had a very fruitful discussion on the. You will not agree, but then that's how the world calls it, the Muslim trilogy of Shyam Benegal. We will come back to discuss Shyam Benegal's other films also in the next episode. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much for having joined us.
Thank you.
Yes. Uh,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We learned a lot from this video, where in detail you have talked about, the Muslim women, their rights, their struggle, their confinement, the issue of identity, and also you talked about the role of Sutradhar or the narrator, mother-daughter relationship, role of music and all. And I think everyone enjoyed it thoroughly, and it was very enlightening session. Now, I think our participants have some queries and some, observations on this, and I'd like to take them. Ravinder, chat main questions.
It's open, ma'am.
Okay. Sir, there are many who are saying that it was a multi-layered interpretation of all the movies. It was excellent. Um, and in these, I think 7 to 8 years ka span jo aapne liya started from partition, also how the women, they got affected by this one more than even men. And how there's some minute observations where I like how the character, one character who was there in all the three one. And one thing which I like, that the role of Sutradhar, that was men in two movies, in Mammo and in Zubeda. So that was, I think, I liked very much, because how men are coming forward to talk about their rights and all. Um, then sir, the chat box is full of compliments and observations that they like that Bahut Sundar, wonderful session, you know. Sir, there is Dr. Pooja Joshi. She wants to ask that I would like to know, how do you think Jubeda is a symbol of new women?
You see, before I start answering the questions, and before I lose track of what I know, every time I must have said it. I made this. I read so much about this, then I made the searched for the person whom I could interview this, and I did not allow him to go from my line what I wanted to hear from you. So you must have seen the tool and the devices of interview which I use with him. So And every time that I come back to this conversation, and there are several, if you, I will share with you the YouTube channel where I have put some of these conversations of the other Benegal films and Gulzar film and others which you can go and see. You see, from today when I watched it again, I was, I watched the full show with all of you today. So what were my takeaways from today's watching? And if we were, to reduce it to keywords, as they say, तो मेरे 4 कीवर्ड क्या थे? Identity, identity. The second was career, very important. The third was juxtaposition, generations की जो clash है, juxtaposition. And again, the juxtaposition was in the term of the protagonist and the older generation. And when the protagonist is faced with the younger generation, she becomes khudgarz. So so that is these were the 4 what you call my takeaways when I was listening to it again and trying to again rediscover that what else was there in the film and where we can take it forward. So these were my 4 keywords. And now the question was that
How Zubeda is the face of a new woman.
you see, all of them are face of new women. As I think goes, that generation, that generation which has stepped into womanhood, from being a girl child to a woman. So all of them are new women. So be it Zubeda in 1950 or be it Mammo. You see, Mammo, I don't know if you will go back and watch this film, Mammo did not belong to Pakistan. Mammo's father was a good industrialist in Panipat, and she decided to go to Pakistan for her love. And whereas rest of her family, the Muslim family, they stayed back in India. Her father had a good, and then she comes back, and the sister here, the other sister who has stayed back, she would not fight with her brother for the property, but Mammo would come back and go and fight with the brother. Isn't it? You have taken away all my property. So that way she's also a new woman. And of course, Sardari, of all the 3 characters as I see, and as I insisted on him also talking about it, Sardari Begum is uncomparable. In that, she is trying to make a career and a very unconventional career. She comes from and you see again, all the 3 families are not very conservative Muslim families. Again, see the backdrop also. They are not very conservative Muslim families. बच्चों को पढ़ाते लिखाते भी हैं, लड़कियों को पढ़ाते भी हैं, और एक तहजीब और वो सारी चीजें फॉलो करते हैं. तो ये बहुत दकियानूसी परिवार नहीं है. लेकिन फिर भी उनके लिए ये बिल्कुल अनएक्सेप्टेबल है कि उनकी बेटी ठुमरी गाए. इट इज टोटली अनएक्सेप्टेबल फॉर देम कि उनकी बेटी ठुमरी गाए, और सरदारी वहां पे रिबेल करती है. शी रिबेल्स देयर. And she, mind you, walks away with a much older person, the Raja, to his refuge, and she probably somewhere knows that what is going to befall her socially and physically. But still, in the pursuance of a career, in the pursuance of a career, she decides to take that step. So that way, all the 3 women are, they in their own rights are very strong women, are new women, setting benchmarks for the people, and they all are very, very representative of their era. That's what I,
Very strong-minded characters they are.
Determined, strong-minded is a bad word to use. Determined characters, very determined of what they want to pursue. Determined.
Sir, one more question is Dr. Anupriya Roy. She is asking, sir, kindly shed some light on the concept of home and homeland in Mammo.
Home and homeland, that is what is Mammo's dilemma. You see, as long as you, again, the a role of a man in a woman's life. So, she leaves behind, जो उसका by birth homeland था, she decides to leave that behind, and she adopts another country as her home because her love is there. And they all accept her. and she is the queen of the household. But as soon as that man dies, they all throw her out because she does not have any of those peer. उसके सारे रिश्तेदार इंडिया में, और ये पंजाब के उस तरफ का था, तो वो उसके बाकी रिश्तेदार उसको वहां से भगा देते। तो अब जो it is at this point, you see, our whole idea of home sweet home, our whole idea of home is cannot be physical, it cannot be geographical, it has to be emotional, where we find, what is home. Home is a place where you go back and you are at ease with the world, right? And where you feel the most protected. So as long as her man was there, she felt very protected in that home in Pakistan. But as soon as that man is gone, she thinks that this is my place. This is my place where I should be in, and she even and she resists being deported to Pakistan, which supposedly is. And you see, this is again so much of representative of the Muslim society. Everybody did not want to go to Pakistan. And some of them who went to Pakistan, they wanted to come back to India. They wanted to stay in India, but they are being deported back to Pakistan for having committed that sin, having gone there for a variety of reasons. She did not go to Pakistan on the call of Muslim League or Muhammad Ali Jinnah. She went to Pakistan for her love. But she is paying a very heavy price for that. And then she comes back to she comes back to India and this thing. You see, there's this, I think to this question it is being said that she's referring to Garam Hawa. Yes, Garam Hawa is a very known film on partition. There are several other films on partition. And this whole issue of home and homeland have been differently discussed and argued by different directors and different, script writers in their cinema. You see, they have looked at it very differently from different. Even if you look at it, forget about Garam Hawa, a very, very critically appreciated film. But I look at even Gadar, which was a commercial super hit, super duper hit. It had again partition as theme and love and woman. And the father had migrated to Pakistan. It was Amrish Puri not allowing her to come back to India, and here in Zubeda, it is Amrish Puri not allowing her to go to Pakistan. And Amrish Puri is again a Muslim father who says no. He tells his friend who's trying to seek a fortune in Karachi that yes, you and your son can go and seek fortune in Karachi, but my fortune and my daughter stay here in India. So again, this very, the kind of definitions that we give of, or the explanations that we give, very simplistic explanations that we give of, why did somebody go to Pakistan or why did somebody stay to India, keeps getting redefined and redefined and redefined every time that, and that is how partition has been, the story of partition doesn't seem to end anytime. There will be, I'm very sure, there will be many more films, many more stories which will get written on partition. And, about such things, it has already been about, I think, how many, 75 years since we got divided. But the theme continues to hold. So that is the strength of the, what you call this whole theme, the whole idea. And the social disruptions, the emotional disruptions, geographical तो था, एक रेडक्लिफ साहब आए थे, उन्होंने एक लाइन खींच दी थी, वो था, लेकिन जो सोशल और इमोशनल डिसरप्शन जो हुआ पार्टीशन के चलते, उसकी कहानी अभी खत्म नहीं हुई, वो चलती रही, and that will continue. Yes.
Sir, there is one query from Dr. Pooja Raizada. She says, sir, this is not related, but it would be wonderful if you could comment on Smita Patil's character in Bhumika.
I think, as I said, there are few of my other videos there on the internet. There is a video, where I talked at length about all the women characters who have featured in Shyam Benegal's films, and the thing to what is to be about these women characters. Shyam Benegal's women character should be seen in totality, not for one film or one thing. Even when I talked about Muslim characters, I try to take at least 3 films for case study. So if you start from Shabana Azmi in Ankur and Bhumika, Smita Patil in Bhumika and such things, and move on to the later films, you will see the common running identity is that, the women in all this film are, whatever the circumstances, whatever the situations, whatever the locales and things. But the common fact is that they are there to take a position, they are there to take a stand. And that is how they become, kind of protagonists in most of the films. So why only even Rekha in this Kalyug, or Jennifer Kapoor and Jennifer Kendall I mentioned about. Such a if you have to look at strong women characters of Shyam Benegal, I think there is not a better character than Jennifer Kendall in what you call in what was that film Junoon, where when if you look at this dialogue there, when she is when the Nawab comes and tells her that you must marry your daughter to me, and they are in captivity of that Nawab, and they know if they go out of the house they will be killed by the marauding crowds. They are in the captivity of the Nawab, but she is not ready to barter away her daughter as second wife to that Nawab. And then when he says that that, and she says that you don't have a future, Nawab, because the English are coming back. So he says, the Nawab says कि आप भूल रही हैं कि दिल्ली हमारे कब्जे में है. And then she stands up and says, लेकिन नवाब अंग्रेजों के घेरे में है. अगर दिल्ली आपकी तो रूह आपकी. You see the politics and the relationship. And think of her position. She is a woman from a different race, from a different country, who is in India, where there has been a rebellion against her race, against her people. She is in the captivity of a person who is a lifesaver also, but also a kind of a vulture also. And then she stands up in under that, she stands up and tells for the protection of her daughter. So the protective woman, the protective mother. If you look at this relationship of Jennifer Kendall and Nafisa Ali in this film Junoon, and you transport it to a later film Sardari Begum, somewhere Jennifer Kapoor, wanted to get married to this Nawab, which the mother did not allow, in her own protective manner. And similarly, in Sardari Begum, the protective mother did not allow the daughter to have her way. So these themes, these relationships in different setups keeps getting repeated in most of Benegal films, and that is the beauty of Benegal films. That he is able to re-establish these relationships in different stories, in different locations. गोवा में पोर्चुगीज फैमिली की बात करता, वहां त्रिकाल, त्रिकाल, वहां पे बात करता, वहां पर भी इतनी रिलेशंस के बारे में. अगेन द predominant character is a woman, Leela Naidu and Nina Gupta. And there are so many women characters there. So that is the beauty of his films, and that's why I decided to talk about when I was given this list of sections that I could talk about, I wanted to talk about on gender, and I wanted to talk about Shyam Benegal, how he has treated women in his film in different eras, in different times, in different locales. That's what his films bring out.
Yes, yes, said, sir. Sir, there is this one more question from Aisha Warsi. This is, how do you think that movies like these can really trigger change in the staunch patriarchal setup? How far are women responsible in forcing subservience to men, and how the girling of the girl child matters in establishing such mindset? Three questions put together.
The three questions. One is that men are pretty bad and women are equally bad, and the third one is that education can make them better human beings.
How the girl child, girling of the girl child.
Yeah. You see, the best part about these films are that, as I said right in the beginning, that none of these three films, the women come from conservative families per se. If you look at Zubaida, and 1950 mein uska jo father hai, is a film producer, and there are film parties at her home in which she is there. Her mother is there. If you can go to the images and check for yourself, the way they dress up, the kind of life they live and everything. So that way they are not the ones who are making women to live in ghetto. In all the three films, that women are not being forced to live in a ghetto. But then the liberty that they allow, a liberty that the three characters demand, There is difference between the two, the levels, and therein comes the conflict. And the third question gets answered that since these three women are largely, educated women, and education only does not mean that they are BA, MA, or PhD. Educated women, as in they are well versed with the world and they have exposure, sufficient exposure to the world. Maybe at that point of time, in fact, my own mother, who was in a boarding college in 1950s, had schooling at home because there were no school for women. She was schooled at home. She would have a teacher coming at home and schooling her. So probably they were schooled at home, but they had sufficient education, and that's how they could take a stand, for the cause that they thought was very, very precious to them. So that's what I'm trying to say. So again, these three films are not about very conservative families, women being pushed to live in ghettos and all. Liberal societies, yes, but the definition of liberal or the degree of being liberal are defined differently by the patriarch of the family and by the protagonist of the story. Yes.
Yes, sir, one more is by Neeraj Kumar, and he says, "Sir, how much true the image presented by Muslim women by Sham Benegal compared to the actual image we are seeing in our society? So, how true these images
No,
are between
now the
this?"
definition of what is the definition of actual image and what is the definition of Sham Benegal's image? Sham Benegal's images are not taken up from some, are not out of fantasy. They are living characters, and all these characters are inspired by real life stories. Be it Mammo, be it Zubeda, और be it सरदारी बेगम, ये तीनों कैरेक्टर्स हमारे यहाँ हुए और उनसे ये स्टोरीज इंस्पायर्ड थी। तो ये कहना तो बिल्कुल गलत होगा कि ये कोई इमेजिनरी कैरेक्टर्स थे। एक ड्रामेटाइजेशन के एक अपने डिमांड्स होते हैं, वो डिमांड उन्होंने मीट किए, लेकिन ये कहना कि एसेंशियली ये कैरेक्टर्स एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते थे, ये गलत होगा। ये कैरेक्टर्स एग्जिस्ट करते थे, और वैसे कैरेक्टर्स आज भी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं मुस्लिम समाज के अंदर। ऐसी लड़कियां आज भी एग्जिस्ट करती हैं। अब जो आप इमेजेस की बात कर रहे हैं, जो टेलीविजन इमेजेस की आप बात कर रहे हैं, जिसमें जो मुस्लिम वुमेन की इमेज की आप बात कर रहे हैं, उसके बारे में मैं आपको मास कम्युनिकेशन के एक थ्योरी के तरफ ले जाऊंगा। अगर आप कैमरा जो होता है ना, टेलीविजन का कैमरा, it only loves sad stories. If I have to see good stories, I'll watch a film, a much better made films. The camera always carries, कहीं डिजास्टर हो गया, कहीं कुछ हो गया, कहीं ममता बनर्जी ने गाली दे दी, कहीं कुछ हो गया, कहीं ड्रामा और फलाना, कहीं वुमेन के साथ ये हो गया, उसके साथ वो हो गया. They are also necessary. They also bring out what you call the realities of life, but they overdo it for obvious reasons. The reasons of TRP. You will not find any good stories. That during the riots in Delhi last year, we had a woman DCP in the adjoining district, and she was a Muslim woman, and she did not allow the riots to happen. Such stories don't make it to television screens. अब कोविड के बारे में आप देखिए ना, जो स्टोरीज आती है, वो मतलब वो क्या कहते हैं, प्रलय तो नहीं आ गया, हम लोगों ने सबने सरवाइव किया है ना 1 साल, और उसके बाद अब डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, बातें कर रहे हैं, कोविड की कितनी सारी अच्छी स्टोरीज रही होंगी। इन माय नेबरहुड आई फाइंड सो मेनी गुड स्टोरी, वुमेन स्टोरीज, बट दे डोंट गेट नरेटेड. So that is the limitation of camera, the news camera, and the images that create, and that is what. And then the sadistic attitude, the sadistic approach of the viewers also, वो सारा TRP का चक्कर है, वो images को वे create करता है, उसके commercial concerns है, वो एक अलग चीज है, अपनी जगह है. तो मेरे ख्याल से वो भी अपनी जगह सच है, एक एग्जिस्ट करता है, और ये इमेजेस तो श्याम बेनेगल दिखा रहे हैं या और कई लोगों ने दिखाया है, वो भी अपनी जगह पर एक सच है, वो भी अपनी जगह पर एक सही है. इट इज और जब इसको ज्यादा ओवर ड्रामेटाइज किया जाता है, वुमेन फ्रॉम ए वेल टू डू मुस्लिम फैमिली, being pushed down by the archaic laws. You see Nikah of B.R. Chopra. So that is the thing, but Shyam Benegal is a more realistic dramatization than B.R. Chopra's dramatization. So, and to to underline again, all these three characters in the time frame that we are talking about, all these three characters did exist. They were there, and this is Khalid Mohammed, the famous film historian's mother, जो जुबैदा उनकी स्टोरी है, मम्मू की स्टोरी भी है, और ये सरदारी बेगम, ये तीनों एग्जिस्ट करती थी अपने अपने टाइम पे. ये कोई अनरियलिस्टिक या फैंटासी की स्टोरीज नहीं है, दे आर रियलिस्टिक स्टोरीज.
Very nicely elaborated, sir, and like अच्छा लग रहा है कि इतना मतलब ये है कैरेक्टर में इतने स्ट्रॉन्ग कैरेक्टर्स जो अपने राइट्स के लिए बात करते हैं ना. सर एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन मैं लेना चाहूँगी. आई थिंक वैसे आपने एक्सप्लेन किया, बट फिर भी थोड़ा सा इस बाय साजिया सिद्दीकी, comparing the characters of two queens, I think it's regarding Zubeda. Religion does not matter because both are compelled to conform. One does completely, other is claustrophobic in doing so. So it ends up being a gender issue, more to do with religion. So what do you say about this?
The gender issue तो है ही है. इनफैक्ट हमारे डिस्कशन में शुरुआत में वो कहता है कि ये हिंदू सोसाइटी हो या मुस्लिम सोसाइटी, वो तो ये इस पे तो कोई डिस्प्यूट है ही नहीं. जेंडर इशू है, तभी मैं सिनेमा को आज जो मैं लेक्चर भी दे रहा हूँ जेंडर इशू के अंदर ही दे रहा हूँ. तो इट इज अ जेंडर इशू, देयर इज नो डाउट्स अबाउट इट. You see, women, even if we talk about, Western world, वहाँ पर भी जेंडर इश्यूज है, वहाँ पे भी स्ट्रगल्स है. तो ये तो है, उसमें तो कहीं कोई डिनाइल है ही नहीं कि वो irrespective of religion, irrespective of this thing. And you see, one of the reasons why I brought in this Muslim trilogy and why did I talk about it was also to show and focus that जो हमारे यहाँ जो एक क्लीश्ड इमेज बन गया है मुस्लिम वुमेन का, that who cannot stand up to men, who cannot stand up to society, it is also to break that. Because here we have three Muslim women protagonists who actually stand up to the pressures of the society, stand up to the pressures of the siblings, and who in a way achieve their life goals. So that was one of the reasons that I, on a more positive note, that I brought this, selected these three films for this discussion and talk.
So I think now we'd like to end this with this positive note only. And again, as I said, there are so many, compliments and observations. Participants have enjoyed it thoroughly. They had learned a lot from this lecture. So at the end, on behalf of ARSD College, IQAC, on the the organizing team and all the participants, I would like to thank you for sparing your time and coming here and enlightening us on this issue which is need of the hour. Thank you so much, sir.
Just this YouTube channel where you can go and see these
Yes,
other documentaries are called Capital Khabar. That's
right.
that's the YouTube channel.
KHABAR.
I put it in the chat box. Capital Khabar, where you can find some more related these things, about, especially about other women characters in Sam Benegal's films, and so.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll be so much.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure talking about it. And I was not very sure that will my conversation, this video conversation, will keep you engaged for this long. It was pretty long, 40-42 minutes, but that's given me a confidence of being a ठीक-ठाक filmmaker.
Yes, sir. Like the chat box shows that everyone found it so engaging. They were there throughout the time, and so many questions, queries, observations. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, participants. And now it's time for our lunch break. We'll meet again at 1:30. So please join at 1:25 so that we can start our next session at sharp 1:30. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.